Relax, the keyboard is off and the press box is closed, but the mic is just getting warmed up. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink, a show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. Join your host, Lance Green, the guardian of the blue paint turned writer, and co-host SteelFlyers, as we bring you all the latest on the Philadelphia Flyers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink with your host, Mr. Lance Green.
All right, Steel, how are you?
Oh man, I'll tell you what, Lance. I'm really fired up because boy, the Flyers. Oh my gosh, what did Hey, I'll take that all day long. Winners of 4 straight. Boy, I'll tell you what. But hey, how about that, folks? Big, huge thank you to Lance for hosting the show. Thanks, Lance. Thanks for being here, brother.
Yeah, wouldn't have it any other way for sure. Love talking about this team, especially when they're winning. So, always good, always good.
Always good, always good. And oh boy, folks, we got a little special one here for you because Mr. Lance Green just has unleashed his latest article. Holy smackers! Oh, we're going to talk about it on the show here tonight. And so, yeah, but you got to go over to SteelFlyers.com and check out Lance's latest article that it was just unleashed. Like, right, I mean, I am not kidding, right before we just hopped on here to start recording this. So it's going to kind of really be tying in here with exactly what we're going to talk about here. So I am going to kind of spoil the spoil the title of the article as well a little bit too. But big thanks to Spreaker for all your help in getting us out there to all of the podcasting platforms, which you folks can go to Spotify or Google or iHeart or Amazon or Apple. Type in the Hockey Writers Ink and give us a 5-star rating. You'll be able to listen to the show, be able to, give us a rating. That would be great. Really appreciate that. And because of you guys doing that, we are now 11th ranked out of all of the Flyers podcasts out there. We are the 11th ranked podcast out of the top 15. So, hey, we'll take that. Big, huge salute for that. Mucho apreciado, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in and checking us out, man. We couldn't do it without you guys, and that's why we're here. The Batman and Robin of Philadelphia Flyers podcast. Here we go, here we go. Episode number 149, Overachieving Flyers, buyers or sellers at the trade deadline. And this coincides exactly with the article that Lance just put out, like right before we did this. And I think I know what the answer to this is, but I want you folks to hear what the answer to this is. Lance, what was the inspiration behind writing this article? Like, what was it? I mean, gosh, there's so much of this article that we need to talk about because there's so much of it there. There's so much information there. There's so much stuff that we need to just kind of get through here. So let's do it. Let's start right off at the top. What was the inspiration for why you did this article?
Yeah, well, and it's a little early. It's the trade deadline's a bit off still, but rumors are starting to swirl. Teams are trying to gather themselves together, whether to decide whether they're going to be buyers or sellers at this deadline, and the Flyers are right in the mix of that decision-making process, right? I don't think they will be buyers regardless. Danny Briere and company have come out and said that they, want to still build for the future. I think a lot of fans and stuff that read the article already and commented on it. It's getting good feedback, but a lot of them have the same thought process. Like, hey, glad they're doing great, but I'm not about to trade away assets just to get knocked out of the playoffs in the first round. And I think that's where a lot of fans kind of stand. Should we be sellers? Should we be content in where we are and seeing where we're going to end up come the trade deadline? But I don't know. A lot of teams are calling right now and starting to fish around for who would be available. So this is kind of the perfect time why I thought this article should come out and me name a couple of probable players that if the Flyers were to make some deals, they would be the names probably to go. There's definitely some bigger names, but they usually get done later
Yeah,
on, off season or on the trade floor or the draft floor.
draft
So
floor, yeah. Because
yeah.
the kind of things that we're talking about, what we're going to be talking about or focusing on, is what this article focused on, was these particular players that potentially could go at the trade deadline. Now, I am so and look, when you look at it from a fan perspective, and it kind of makes a lot of sense, where you don't want to get rid of players that's going to potentially help you continue to win. Do you know what I mean? But so here's kind of the thing, and what was really cool was that they had Danny Briere on, interviewing him in between the periods last night at the Colorado game, and he pretty much basically said, look, we're trying to be a better team, okay? And if there's a deal out there that's gonna improve this team for right now, but for down the road, that's what they're gonna try and do. Do you know what I mean? And
Right.
so you almost have to, and see, you gotta at least entertain these calls. You have to at least take them and hear what they have to say, because I would much rather see some of these deals done sooner rather
Mhm.
than later, because maybe if you're going to be trading players, that potentially gives the players that little bit of extra time. Because look, the trade deadline is March 8th, I believe, this
Yeah.
year,
Later,
right?
later on. Hmm.
Yeah, right. So that's really late in the season, okay? Because you really, at that point, I think you have less than 20 games left at that
Yeah.
point in the season. Do you know what I mean? So you're not going to have a lot of time with these guys, and we saw some of this last year, where some of the smart teams made the deals early and got their stuff done early, so that they're and Lance, you and I are both on this train, where if that call comes in and you can make that deal now, you would be smart to do it now, because it's to help you in the long run. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a tough position right now for Danny Briere, for
It
sure,
is. It
because
is.
the team is riding a high right now. But do you want to cash in on that high and where while the value of some of your players with expiring contracts or some deals that you might not want laying around next year to be able to make space for others. Do you really want to make that deal now, or do you want to wait until you're definitely out of the playoffs and everything like that? It's a tough decision because I mean, yes, he's building for the future. We know that, and he's started out pretty darn good, but his job is still at stake here. Like, I mean, if they tank and he makes a wrong decision when they're on a second place in the Metro right now, and all of a sudden start tanking because he made some deals for the future. He's still got to worry about right now. As much as he wants to build for the future, he's still got to put a product out on the ice that is competitive, like they are now. And they're very hungry and they're competing in every game and surprising us, winning games like last night versus Colorado. That maybe they shouldn't be winning right now, but
Well,
the
I think that's
like the
conjecture.
yeah. I mean, like the article says, this team is kind of overachieving where most critics and experts had them going this year, right? They were supposed to be a lottery team again. And as of right now, they're coming together, they're gelling, they're playing great under, head coach John Tortorello. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see the Flyers win some games. But do we really want, to hang up on some guys calling about some of these guys that are mentioned in this article.
Well, I'll tell
We
you
have a
what.
lot of prospects coming up that could potentially fill some holes. So yeah, I mean it's a
And
tough decision for sure.
And we do have some draft capital for next year. We do have two number one picks. We do have two number two picks. I think we have a third
Yeah.
and a couple of fourths. So we have
Yeah.
some early draft pick capital already, right?
Well,
So, but
right, as me and you had talked about too, it's early or nothing, I think, in this draft. I don't see the depth that was there last
right,
draft, where you're getting
right,
guys like Aiden Fink and stuff late, in the draft.
right. I'm with you.
There's not that depth there. So anyway, Steele, sorry to cut you
Yeah, no, no,
off.
no, no, no. That's okay because that was a really great point because you need to make sure that you have some buildup of early picks. Do you know what I mean? And some of the guys that you talk about in this article that we're going to break down here, right, potentially could land the Flyers some of those exact things that they will need to continue their quote unquote rebuild. But I like the point that you made about the fact that the Flyers, look, they still need to kind of win now. They
Mhm.
still have to put a product out there. They still have to put butts in the seats. Let's face it. This
Right.
team is, I think they're at this point right now because of what the coach has done. Look, he's
Sure.
made, we've all agreed to disagree on some of the moves that he's made throughout the season, but let's face it, this is a Jack Adams award-winning coach, okay, who's won almost at every single level there is at hockey, okay. I'm gonna trust what this guy's gonna say, maybe a little bit more than you know anybody else, because he's there every single day, whistle to whistle with these guys.
Mhm.
So if all right, I'm putting my trust into Torts. How's that? Right? That's the best thing that we can do, right?
I think that's good right now because honestly, I mean, he's won a cup prior, he's won a Jack Adams award prior, but I think he's coaching some of the best hockey of his career right now. He's kind of
Thank
learned
you for
to,
that. Thank you for
yeah,
that.
he's kind of learned to pick and choose his battles where he would, be a lot more harsh with his words and everything else. Before I think he's progressed in his coaching and figured out where he's made mistakes prior that has gotten him fired, and
Yep.
has really come around to be a well-rounded coach and still that snarl and stuff when needed and that ability to get production from players in some means that some other coaches wouldn't, but it is effective, and he's doing so in a way that now just seems a bit more refined, I should say, not as flagrant or you know as some of his antics was in the past. So I think we're
Purpose.
getting the best John Tortorella that we could ever hope for here because he is getting production from a team that a lot of guys, in the industry never thought they would be getting this kind of production. So
Purpose. He has purpose.
yeah,
Do
he
you know what I'm
wants to
saying?
be here. He wants to make this once great franchise
Yeah.
great again. And he sees a vision. He sees what the bones that were here, and he wants to build that up again. And I think he's well on his way, as well as Danny Briere and Keith
Danny
Jones.
Jones. And that's a great point too, Lance, because I think that's exactly what they're doing. Is they're rebuilding. Look, everybody said, "Oh, they came out and said the rebuild word." Well, but they're living up to it and they're doing the things that they need to do. They're doing it the right way. You have to walk before you can run. You have to be able to run before you can skate. You have to be able to skate before you can shoot. You have to be able to shoot before you can score. I mean, these are all those kinds of things. They changed all the medical staff. They changed all the player development. They changed
All the behind the scenes
all the
stuff that we
behind.
don't really think about. The guys
Okay,
that actually work with these players day in and day out directly, and it's showing in those facets as well. But with these guys that we're going to talk about here in a second, um, it's kind of needed for some of these guys to possibly exit in my mind.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
we do have the depth that was playing when some of these guys were injured before and everything else. That shows they can hang in there too right now, and they're not as far away as we once thought they were, and giving them their own chances to prove themselves for possibly a full-time role next year is needed as well, to see what they actually have and can bring to the table. So that is very important.
I
So
like that too. And that's something that's going to come. Do you know what I mean? As things shift and move, and as players come in and out of the lineup, as players develop and progress, that's the natural
right,
flow of things. That's how it should be anyway. You know what I mean? So, but I want to talk about the players that you have on your article, Lance, and
right,
there's only a couple players on your articles list, but I think that they're very key, important players that need to be discussed, because I think this is what's making the decision difficult for Danny Briere. Because, yeah, are these guys contributing to how the team is playing and performing now? Yes. Are they contributing to the fact that the Flyers are now second place in the Metro Division? They just put together a 4-game win streak, beating the Pittsburgh Penguins at a home, beating Arizona in their building, and then going to Colorado and beating Colorado in their building. Okay? That, I don't care what anybody says, is impressive. When you
pretty
can
handily
win,
too. Yes.
okay, when you can win those kind of stretch of games like that with a roster that is the Philadelphia Flyers roster currently,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's impressive. Okay, so some of these players that we're going to talk about are contributing to that success. Do you know what I
Oh,
mean?
on the wheel, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. So it makes it kind of tough, because, like, well, wait a minute, why are you guys talking about this? But I think you all understand what we're talking about when we get to the end of this, because you'll understand once we explain the players and everything else like that. So, yeah, I know it's a little early, but I think this is things that need to be talked about now, because we're at that 1/3 mark. You know what I mean? We're getting close, getting close. The All Star break's coming up in about, a month ish, right? You know what I'm saying? So a lot can happen in the NHL in a month, right? So, all right. The first name on the list that Lance talks about for the overachieving Flyers, should they be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline, is Rasmus Ristolainen. Now, we have had some agree to disagree moments about this player in the past. We've talked about this player in the past. We both feel that although he does bring a certain element to the game,
Mm.
we feel that it is not necessarily needed from him. And so that, I think that's kind of made him expendable as far as I'm concerned. And his much larger contract is also another foreboding thing that's kind of hanging over the team's heads. So, Lance, break down the or the Rasmo. Yeah, I can say his name, really, I can. Rasmus Ristolainen, and break down his situation here in the article for us, Lance.
So, I mean, Risto was a guy that the team brought in, paid pretty handily to bring him in under Chuck Fletcher's watch, very because they lacked physicality and all that. They brought him in. He's still on the better side of, in his 20s, not 30 just yet. He's 6'4", 208 pounds. Uh, Big guy, towering presence on the blue line that can be very physical, and but he's got some bad points, right? He's got a career minus 175 ish, 176, whatever it is with this
Ouch.
current game. That's not good, but he played on a lot of bad Buffalo Sabres teams, but the team re-signed him anyway to a 3 year, 3 more years and $5 million plus, which isn't bad per se if he was the player that we all thought he would be or the player that he is currently. But he's only played in less than 10 games with the Flyers this season because of injury that he had to deal with, and he's come back and he's bought into the system. He's playing really well, and we got a lot of great prospects in Bonk and Emil Andre and so many other defensemen down there. Now that some teams are calling, and specifically, I believe the Toronto Maple Leafs have been calling and trying to gain where, how much it would take or whatever to get him. Um, it's interesting. Should we deal this contract and free up some money? And you got to remember that we have to pay Tippett this year. We have some other big pieces potentially coming in, and Cutter Gauthier and stuff. That would be on a rookie deal, but there's some and some other defensemen coming up next season. So, do we want to get rid of this guy based off his career body of work, that is that 100 minus 176 type player who's played 11 seasons in the NHL and has never finished a plus player in any of those? Or do we want to bet on him in less than 10 games of time span here and honor his contract and stay with him for the future? It's definitely it's hard to say, but in my mind, I say if the deal's there, get rid of them. Again, you got to think about the future here. Like Steel said, we already have 2 first-round picks. We already have multiple second-round picks. Adding to that in this draft, which is top-heavy, a lot of great talent early, would be amazing to do, and it would be substantial in a year or two's time if we get another first-round pick for Ristolainen, or a second-round pick and prospects, or whatever the case may be that Danny works out. If this deal is to take place, it would be great. Potentially 3 first-round draft picks this year, or 3 second-round draft picks this year. That is going to potentially change this franchise for the next decade. Okay, with possibly who we could land in that draft. So you have to think of the future here, guys. We're like we said. Do you really want to go to the playoffs and get bumped out by the Rangers, who kick our butts every time we play them, have our number? We don't have an answer to step up to them. They're winning 75% of their games right now. We're not able to stand there. And if you think about it, the team is the races are so close in the Eastern Conference right now. With this win, we maintain where we are, but there's so many great teams that are nipping at our heels right now. The Hurricanes, the Caps, and so forth, the Islanders, that are right there within 2 points of us right now. So if we go, we're great. We're on a 4-game winning streak. But if we go on, say, a 2 or 3 game losing streak, we could be out of that second in the Metro and like 5th in the standings in the East, and we could drop down to easily out of the playoffs because of that. So in a week or two's time, we're riding this high right now. We could easily be, wishing we did this deal that's pressing. And from what I hear recently, Toronto may be interested in more than just Ristolainen. They may also want to try to really? One of the other 2 players that we're going to talk about, Steel. So that is very interesting. I just was reading up on that, how they could possibly be looking to add 2 of the Flyers' defense. They're that impressed with them.
Wow. Well, so now, look, if somebody was calling for Risto right now, I would drop the hammer on that right now. Okay, and the reason why I'm saying that is because, for one, you got Stahl back, right, from injury. For 2, you have Zamula is up and playing, right? So I think you would be okay if that deal could be done like now, if they wanted to do it now. Just throwing that out there, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where, hey, you don't have to make the deal on the day of the trade deadline. Like, you could do it now. How about now? Right now?
Right.
Anyway,
And,
right?
and I think that's what you're going to get. I think you're going to get more teams, like you said, that are wanting to make the deal for the person that they know they want
Right.
now, rather than waiting to the trade deadline and finding out that another team ended up getting them, and then their chance of making a playoff push is gone.
Exactly. And that's what
Like
they're
I said,
doing.
way too many teams are really close within themselves right now. So if a team could go out there and acquire somebody right now to get better for the next 10 to 15 games before the trade deadline even happens, or
Yeah.
whatever, the All-Star game and everything
Yeah.
else, then they could make a big push and secure their position in the playoffs early, rather than still battling it out with the same teams.
Exactly. And I, and I,
So
I think this goes with the other two players that we're going to talk about as well. But think about it like this: if you make the deal now, before the mad scramble, now you're not on the outside looking in. Now you're getting the guy that you want, deal done that you want, instead of settling for something, or instead of having to rush something together just so somebody can get something and you can get something, and whatever. You got all the time in the world. You got everybody. I heard that the other day at the Arizona game, there are not the Arizona game, but the one Pittsburgh Penguins game, there were 11 scouts, 11 different team scouts at that game scouting the Flyers. Okay, so if a deal is imminent, it's one of those things. Do you know what I'm saying? But um, the other players that we're going to talk about, and see, that's if I didn't hear about, I didn't know about that second part of the Toronto thing. I only heard about that they were only interested in Ristolainen. You know what I mean? But if they're interested in these other two players, and these other two players that we're going to talk about, and I think you kind of have to mention them in the same breath because they came over here at the same time. You know what I mean? And we're talking about Wheeler and Walker, right? Both of these players have come to the Flyers and have. I don't think they've overachieved. I think they've been turned loose. I think they've been allowed to play the game that that they're good at, or that why they were brought in, or why they were the reasons why they were brought in. I've been utterly impressed with both of these guys. Utterly impressed with how they're defensive, responsible first before anything else. They take care of that puck much. I mean, and how they've played in penalty kill, and how they've contributed to this. Uh, Lance, about what the Flyers could get for these two players. I mean,
so
aside
yeah,
from the Toronto thing, right? Aside from the Toronto thing, but just individually, Walker
right.
and or Wheeler. What do you think? I mean,
Sealer, yeah.
Sealer. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sean Walker, of course, came over in the Kings deal that sent away Provorov. He's 29-year-old veteran. He's been great for the team, as I knew he would be. He was great and underrated in LA, and has done great things to solidify this defense. But he's making $2.6 million in the last. He's in the last year of his deal, and although he's a plus player and he scored some points, more so than he did in LA even, um, you know, we still have a ton of young guys coming up. Does the team want to sign potentially a 30-year-old defenseman next year, and to bring him back for a year or two or something like that,
No.
when we have Zumala, Belapito, Ronnie, Emil Andre, Jinning, Helgi Grans, who came over
Oh
with
yeah.
Walker as well. Oliver Bonk is there, of course, coming up in maybe a year or so away. I don't want to see the team go back down this road and you know have these older veterans hang around a little too long, and you know slow down the process of some of these guys coming up, and
That doesn't seem
that
like
is
that's
something
Briere's
that we're going to
speed,
have to
though.
deal with.
I don't think that's Briere's speed, though, Lance. He doesn't seem
No,
like that. He
Well,
doesn't come
and a
across like
good
that.
no, I agree. And a good GM or a good team like Carolina, for instance, can go out every offseason and do this and pick up a guy like this, a guy that is a cog, but he's not the piece, right?
Yeah.
That is the key. So you're not overspending on guys to keep them around when you can go out and not saying that Walker's a dime a dozen because he's a darn good defenseman, but he's not a one or two, right? We're not trying to go out there and will them
Yeah,
away
right.
from five or six different teams. He's
Yeah.
a B level free agent in this summer that we could probably find somebody to fit that role again. So
Currently
what
already
could
on
we
the roster.
potentially what could we potentially get for him? Some people have been talking about a first round pick. I don't think you can get a first round pick for this guy,
Ooh, yeah.
although it all depends on the trade
Who it
market at the
is.
time, who's injured, and how that team that comes calling is built. If they're built to win this year and they got a lot of expiring contracts that they're not going to be able to bring back guys, then they might want to overpay for somebody like the Tampa Bay Lightnings or the Pittsburgh Penguins do because they see that window closing. But you know, more accurately, I would say probably you could garner a second round pick for him the way he's playing right now, and that
For
goes
Sean Walker.
to yep for Walker,
Yeah.
and that is saying a lot considering he was just another name in that Provorov trade. When you think about the big thing was to get a first round pick and and potentially Helgi Grans who could be a piece, right? Um, that is something that because they were trying to cut salary too, and that's why he was kind of dealt. So, man, if somebody comes calling for him and he's a great player and he's done well for the Flyers, but if somebody comes calling for him and is willing to give up a second round pick so that we get potential and have potentially three second round picks, this off season, I would say go ahead and take
Pull
that
that
all day
trigger.
long, right?
Yeah,
Um, you
right.
know, some people are like, "Oh no, resign him." Hey, look, we're building for the future, guys. We're building for the future. A 30-year-old defenseman is not that is top four, maybe five or six on a good team. It is not building for the future, trying to keep him around. Further developing and leaving space for a guy like Andre and then Bonk to come up is more important for the
Yeah.
future of this team. And we can go on into Nick Seeler. Nick Seeler is a guy that Chuck brought in. He drafted him, I believe, in Minnesota. Had him staying around, and I really like Nick. Nick has been a dog for us. He plays the left, he plays the right side, he gets in the scraps, he's doing the dirty work
Yep.
along the
Consistent though. He
boards.
is
He is
consistent
a
though.
he is tough, man. He is tough, and he's leading the team in plus minus, guys. Um, this is this is something that is underrated in my book. A lot of people downplay this stat, but you look at the cup winners and
Yeah,
everything
we
like
don't.
that, and the guys that are in the Hall of Fame have four plus 400, 500, 600 stats for their careers, and that's why they're there in the Hall of Fame and have those rings on their fingers, guys. It's great to score goals, but you got to be defensively responsible too and prevent the other team from scoring. And that is what Nick Seeler has been able to do. He's been able to go out there and play against some tough customers and shut them down. And all for the price of only $775,000. Um, a
Woo.
freaking steal for anybody, right? He's a plus 13 before last night's game. But a steal to bring this kind of guy in to put into your fifth or sixth defenseman role for a playoff contending team is just gonna add the depth that you need and the grit that you need to play a 7 game series.
Uh-huh.
And this guy, while I love his game, he's not the guy that's gonna be for the future. He's 30 years old already. Um, as well. We're building for the future. If somebody's willing to give a third round pick for him,
That's a
take
good
it.
move.
Take
Yeah,
it.
that's a
That is
good
a
move.
darn good move because we signed him for nothing, brought him in, and he wasn't even playing in the NHL consistently when we built him. So now that we could turn him around for potentially a third round pick, that the Flyers, under Danny Briere, I believe, could get a darn good player in the third round, like they did this draft. Um, you know, this past draft anyway. So these guys, I overall, Flyers fans, I know we like this team is winning right now, and yes, they're on a 4-game win streak, but we have to stay focused. We have to build for the future, and garnering these picks, potential first, second, and third round picks, that would be multiple picks for the Flyers that they already have, and in addition to what we could get, is just what we need more than
Exactly.
the couple of games that we're winning a quarter way into the season. All
Yeah, I'm
right,
with you.
because things, like I said, things could change. Things are tight in these races right now. Things could change in a matter of a week or two, and we could be out sitting outside of the playoff race and be wishing we made these deals for potential first and second round picks and etc.
Exactly. I I like the fact that you put this article out here, Lance, because it points out exactly the kind of position that the Flyers are currently in, where they actually have some capital that they could afford to move. We're forced to have to sign these guys because they have nobody else. Do you know what I mean? And
Right.
with some of the draft capital that they already have, and the potential draft capital that they could get with these trades that you mentioned in your article, I mean, everybody talks about having that superstar player, that reason why you come to watch the banner that hangs down the side of the building. You know what I mean? Well,
Mhm.
when you have multiple first round picks and cap space and potential of prospects, I mean, that's and you're winning now with, overachieving teams because your coach has gotten your players to get. You see what I mean? The point I'm getting to is that this is all building um, a place where free agents will want to come. Do you
Right.
understand what I'm saying? So you can't get everybody through the draft. Okay, it's good that you're going to build through the draft and everything else like that, and that's all fine and great. And let's face it, the new Bree era has started with the Mitchkoff drafting, the Bonk drafting. You know what I mean? And some of the other players that were drafted that he brought in, and some of the players that he's brought in here. So I mean, he's building. They are building a place where those big names. I'm just throwing names out there, like Johnny Hockey, would want. I mean, didn't want to come here, but those are the kinds of big names you want to be able to attract. Do you know what I'm saying? You want to be able to have a team set up so that you can have those kinds of players. Also need to be able to do exactly what the Flyers are doing and finding those players in the draft. The only way you can do that is if you have draft capital. Right now, the Flyers have the capability of getting some of that draft capital by making some of these moves that Lance suggested in this article. And that's why I think we talked about why we wanted to talk about this. And I think they need to be sellers at the trade deadline or even before. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because let's face it, it's basically only it would be a luxury if the Flyers made the playoffs this year. Okay,
Right.
I would think that would be considered a luxury. Yeah, they want to win. Yeah, the eventual goal, is to get the Stanley Cup, but I just don't see it being this year. Could they make a run? Cool, great. You know what I mean? That just goes to show you that some of the decisions that they've made so far are panning out and are working out. So, yep, all right, keep going. But and just like what Lance said, I don't know if I really feel like it would be a good idea to get into the playoffs and then get bounced right away by the Bruins or the Rangers or anything else like that. But then again, from what Danny Briere said last night, he doesn't want to be the kind of team that makes the playoffs one year and then the next year don't make the playoffs and then the next year make the play. Do you know what I'm saying? So look, if we have to give up making the playoffs this year so that for the next, I don't know, 10 years, we can
Right.
be in the playoffs, can be contenders, can be. I would much rather do that. I would sacrifice the playoffs for this year, be another lottery team or whatever. Look, I'm not. There's no way am I saying tank or anything else like that. But and Lance, you've said it too. Anything could change in a week. You go on a 3 or 4 game bender, and now suddenly you're on the outside looking in, and all the teams behind you, Capitals, Carolina, right, Tampa Bay, whatever, we all know they're going to be there because they're all really good teams. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Yeah, I
you
mean,
got to do it.
it's does this team want to go back to the sense of mediocrity that they were for so long with Giroux and Voracek, where
Why?
they
Why?
would make the playoffs but then get bounced, right? Danny Briere wants more for the team than that, right? He wants to play for championship banners. He doesn't want to play for playoff spots and then get
Hey, we made
bounced.
it!
All right, that's
No,
what
we're
he's
hanging a
talking about.
banner.
So right. So that's the big difference here. We're looking how we should look for championships rather than it's been way too long, guys. It's been way too long. Before I was even born, uh, this team last won a Stanley Cup. So, you see the pressure that Toronto's on right now, and we can start to feel it here in Philadelphia too. It's been too many years, and that's why I think Toronto is going to be forced to make a big move and overpay for some of these guys, hopefully our guys. And that would, in a sense, help us in the next 10 to 15 years. Drafting 3 or 4 guys in the first round or second, in the 3 or 4 in the second round, where you're going to hit on one of them hopefully, and they're going to be an elite superstar, possibly. You don't know, but you don't get those type of players in free agency anymore. They don't. It doesn't happen. They don't move around too much. They stay where they're going to, or they have a definite space where place where they want to come play. Um, that's just the facts of it all. It's not baseball where you see everybody moving around for the biggest paycheck they can find. It's football or anything like that, where you see guys move around potentially. It's people honor their teams for the most part, and for an extended period of time. So you got to build through the draft and
Yeah.
then acquire the pieces needed in free agency, the type B free agents that the Carolinas and the Tampa Bay Lightning and such have done for so many years to stay competitive once you have that good nucleus, that good core of young players that you built up through the draft. So that is why I say we should be sellers at the deadline or before to be able to garner us some more picks here. So
You know what, Lance? I
I think we hit on that pretty good. Nailed
yeah,
that point home.
yeah, I can't even. You can't even. There's nothing to argue about that at all, really, because when you do break it down the way Lance did in this article, it really points out that although these players are good, and the Flyers are winning now. The winning now part is only. I mean, I don't want to say it's a pipe dream, okay, but it's really kind of it's kind of uh, the aftermath. It's the aftermath of all the hard work that's been going on right now. You're gonna win some games because you're outworking teams. Okay, that just shows that you have a better work ethic and or whatever the case is, right? But there's going to be teams that you're going to lose to because you're going to be outclassed, whether talent wise, whether whatever wise, right? That's all we're saying is that it's okay that we're going to have some of those games, and it's okay that we're winning. and that's a great thing too. And we love seeing this team win, and it's great seeing the success, and it's great seeing some of these young players. And man, TK's been on a roll, and Joel's been on a roll, and Forrester's been getting really good, and Brink has been
Yeah.
playing really well, and man, Kata Hot has actually been playing really well. I mean, the team just in general, aside from the power play, has been playing really well. Aside from the
Right.
power play.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Forrester's got 6 points in the last 5 games. He's got 4 goals in the last 5 games.
Right?
He is getting it going, as the coach thought he would, and that's why he's left him in to get the experience, to get him going. And has bounced around some others that have had prior chances. So, really interesting, how it's all shaping up. But I do think that the key point here too is that this team is getting production from a very limited number of players. All right. There's only 2 players on this team, 27 games into the season, that are in double digits, and that's Travis Konechny, who has
Yeah.
16 goals, and Joel Farabee,
Farabee
who
has
has
10.
10.
Yeah.
All right. So not a whole lot of production. Owen Tippett's getting going. He has 9. Cam Atkinson's there. You know, Forrester's getting going now. But that's very limited when you think about the teams that the Flyers had so much success with, that had 7 or 8 guys finish the season with 20 plus goals, or 25 plus goals. Some of them did. So, it was whole lines of Flyers back, 10 years ago that
Yeah.
were doing this. And on any given night, they didn't have to rely on just 2 or 3 guys. And I think that is the difference now, where, it's not that one line anymore production that teams are winning with. You have to have multiple lines and depth within your team, and that is just showing right now that not a whole lot of people are there with the depth of this team. Everybody's savior Morgan Frost only has 3 goals on the year. Bobby Brink, who has played well, only has 4. So it's this type stuff that reality starts to set in a little bit too when you dive deeper into some of these stats. Yes, they're winning games. Yes, the Konechnys, the Farabees, are all clicking right now. And of course the Sean Couturiers are playing well. But the minute one of them gets hurt, and wish that on nobody, this could all unravel, and we could be, dealing with, the aftermath, and trying to will teams to take players away when it all starts going downhill. So
Exactly.
um, that being that, but you know, all interesting stuff there, Steel. But I'll tell you what I'm excited for is World Juniors coming up. Right, the rosters are getting kind of ironed out a little bit.
16
Naming some
days.
players. Yeah, I am
16 days.
excited.
Me
You
too.
know, I love Christmas and this time of year, but I'll tell you why I like it a whole lot too is because I get time off of work to sit home and watch some of these games of some of these young, promising
Yeah,
prospects.
buddy.
Um,
I
yeah,
can't
I'm
wait.
excited.
I am
I'm
too.
excited, man. I'm
Because
gonna
this is
record
going to
most of
be,
the games.
yeah, awesome. This is going to be a chance for, well, especially the likes of me and you to be able to sit down and see and look at some of the next crop that's going to be that's going to be vying for drafting spots next year. That's also going to give us an opportunity to look at some of the players that have already been drafted and that are going to make the team as well too. But I got to be honest with you here, folks. When Lance and I put together the Prospect Watch show, and we do the Prospect Watch show, we're all about those prospects, and we're all about those the next crop of guys coming up. And I got to tell you, we touched on it earlier in this show. There's some really good talent in this year's draft, and you're going to see some of that talent on display in the World Juniors. But just like Lance also said too, it seriously drops off after like late second round. And it's very, and I think the reason why you're seeing that is because this is a very heavy defenseman oriented after for 2024. Okay.
Right.
And once you get past a certain number of defensemen, then that's it. It drops off because the offensive players was last year. Okay. Now in 2025, you're going to see another uptick of the offensive players. Right, we've already started talking to some of the kids that are going to be
Yep.
coming out in 2025 in Prospect Watch, which, by the way, you have to go to steelflyers.com/links/Prospect Watch Show and check out the Prospect Watch Show where we talk to these young prospects that you guys need to be checking out, man, because we're checking them out for sure. You know what I mean? So I would love to have some of those guys on the Flyers. You know what I mean? But here's what I like about what's going on here with these Flyers is that they are building capital so that they can do what they want to do. Instead of like what Chuck Fletcher was doing was basically he was just reacting to what everybody else did. I mean, like he wasn't out there like initiating the deals or anything else like that. Like I'm not saying that that's not what he did or anything else like that. It didn't come across like he was the one out there doing that. Do you know what I mean? Where it seems like Danny Briere, he's put it out there that, hey man, the doors are open. The phone lines are open. Here's my phone number. Give me a call. Right? He's already put that out there already. Danny
Yep.
Briere has. You know what I mean? So Chuck Fletcher never did that. Chuck Fletcher was never that forward thinking in that aspect of it because that basically just also let the team know too. Hey man, my name could be on the block. You know what I'm saying? So it's a twofold thing where I think it was a clear message to the media and the
Sure. What?
pundits, and it was also a message to the team. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because
Sure. I mean, just like Tortorella plays mind games with these guys, I think Danny Briere is of that same, attune there. Like he's letting these guys know, like, hey, keep playing because teams are calling, and everybody knows they're in a rebuild mode. So if you want to stick around, then you better play your butt off and prove that we should keep you. So,
yeah,
you know,
make it hard for us to want to trade you. You know what I
right,
mean? Make it so that we don't want to trade you, right? You know what I'm saying? So some guys though I think are just going to be regardless they're going to have to go just because we need the
sure,
space for some of the younger guys like the Ristolainens, like the Walkers, like the Sealers, things like that. But I got to tell you what, Lance, I think it's a really good show here. I think, first of all, folks, you guys have to go over to steelflyers.com and check out Lance's latest article. He just posted out there just today. Got to go check it out. Underachieving Flyers, should they be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline? Got to go see that at steelflyers.com. Also, while you're over there, you can check out one of these cool swag t-shirts that you could get, right? All you have to do is put your selection in there, select your size, and bada bing, bada boom, you get your t-shirt, right? So it's $25 plus shipping and handling. All you have to do is go over to the steelflyers.com, go and select your favorite shirt and size, and we'll take care of you and we'll get you a shirt out there. So check that out too. So, and it also makes a great Christmas present too. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Lance, thanks for all the great stuff you do, man. Thanks for the great article you just posted out today, right? So, got anything else kind of rolling around up in there, or just?
uh, making a list and checking it twice to try to get some more prospects on our show. Gathering up some numbers and stuff that I gotta, will
There
some
you
of
go.
these PR people to let us talk to these guys during the break. Possibly
Yeah.
would be a good time.
Yep.
So
For sure.
look for some new stuff there. It's funny that you mentioned it earlier, but I've been hunting around as far as the 2025 draft class, and look to maybe throw some early names out there to watch. Maybe in the coming
Never
days,
too
something
early.
like that.
Never too early to be looking at the
Yeah,
next crop.
right.
So, wow, that's exciting, man. I can't wait. And we've already talked to, 2 players, I think, for 2025 this year,
I think
right?
so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So, Majors, I think, was one of them. And, who was the other one?
Oh, don't get me guessing right now.
Yeah, right.
Uh,
Anyway, but we did
who's
talk
it?
to two. We did talk to 2 of them. So be sure to go over to steelflyers.com/link/prospect watch show. Check that out. Also, go over to the steelflyers.com and check out the Hockey Writers Ink Show. It's a Philadelphia Flyers centric podcast where we talk exclusively about the Philadelphia Flyers. Thank you very much for checking us out. Your host, Lance Green. Tell us where we can find you, where we can get you, sir.
Yes, sir. As always, you can get all my stuff on steelflyers.com. You can catch me on X, or the site that was formerly known
Formerly
as
known as
Twitter.
Twitter. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, and that's at Lance.Green39. And you can always catch me on the Flyers fan pages and stuff. I post everything out on there, and willing to discuss the article or whatever topics you
By all
want
means.
Flyers related on that. So hit me up.
Yeah, man, for sure, for sure. You can hit me up too at SteelFlyers52 on the app formerly known as Twitter. And you can also check out the show. You can follow the show on the app formerly known as Twitter at HCKY Writers Inc. That's HCKY Writers Inc., where you can follow the show. Hit us up. We answer questions. We'll talk about anything you guys want. But thank you very much for checking us out, and we will catch you guys all on the next episode of the Hockey Writers Inc.